me hit record, and we are there. So welcome to the October edition, the Halloween edition of the Wealthy Travel Agent Power Hour. I'm your host, Dan Chappelle, and I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to come join us. This is a time for us to come together and learn a lot of great information that's going to help you take your business to the next level. We're all about making money, and that's what we're here for. I'm here to help you do that. So let's get right on into it. I got some quick news for you. So for those of you who purchased the Secret to Selling to the Fluent Traveler program late August, early September, and you haven't gotten your personalized copy of the book yet, sit tight. It'll be coming out in the next week. I ran out. So I just received the latest shipment, and we'll be we got about a dozen folks that haven't received it yet. So I'll be getting those out to you before the weekend comes. We do have a special announcement. There's some changes to some of the programs that we offer within the Academy that I'm going to talk about towards the end of the program here. So be sure and stay tuned so you can learn more about that. And, if you haven't visited yet, we have our brand new YouTube channel. Got 35 subscribers. Hey, we're getting there. We just cranked it up about a week or two ago. So if you haven't signed up, please go to YouTube and just search for Wealthy Travel Agent, and it'll pop up to the channel, and just subscribe. And the latest video, I post a picture of my dog who likes to watch TV, and so just something humorous to get started. But there's some other videos in there as well, and we'll be adding at least one a week going forward. From here, that's all educational, focused on helping you make money. So do that. Go to Wealthy Travel Agent, or go to YouTube, search Wealthy Travel Agent, and please subscribe. Also, if you haven't friended me on Facebook, please do that, as well as on LinkedIn. I communicate a lot through there and post a lot of things that are going on in the business world, particularly on the Facebook page. So be sure and join us there as well. Okay. Here comes a little bit of the housekeeping bit of it. So type your questions into the Q&A box, preferably not the chat box. That's one that there's lots of boxes I have open on my screen here, and it's hard to get to it. For those of you who did inquire, it is being recorded so that you can come back and revisit it. But one thing I would stress right now is, if you don't have a pen and paper out, grab that. And be sure and take some notes, because one of the things when we do these educational classes and events like this, it's like sitting in a lecture hall. You want to take notes. There's certain things that are going to pop out at you. You can't remember everything that we talk about. So make sure that the key points that are of interest to you are recorded down, and that way you can come back and revisit them, or ask questions about them, or anything else that you might have from there. Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock lately, you probably know that I am back into reading for the upteenth time, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And this is the original 1937 copy that I own, that was given to me by my grandfather. And it's in pretty bad shape, and I don't actually read this copy of it anymore, but I do have paperback copies that I've burned through, highlighted, tabbed, everything else over the years, as well as the audio version. And it was interesting that I was listening to the audio version while I was out hiking a couple weeks ago. And now remember, this book was written in 1937, and he's talking about the financial crisis that took place about 10 years earlier. He's talking about people losing their homes, people losing their jobs. And, it might as well have been written today, because if you think back 10 years ago, we were in the middle of our own financial crisis, and we had our own, people were getting homes repossessed left and right, and people were losing their jobs. So it got me thinking, it's like, wow, these things are so relevant. And we talk about masterminds, and you hear that word thrown out and around quite a bit, and it's actually principle number 2 of Think and Grow Rich from the Mastermind Alliance is the Mastermind Alliance. I'm sorry, it's the Mastermind Alliance. And it's true today as it was then, and I'm going to just read very briefly. The mastermind principle consists of an alliance of two people or minds that are working together in perfect harmony for the attainment of a common objective. Now, this could be two people, this could be a group, but drop down, it says, no man can be a permanent success without taking others along. And that means your peers, your family, your coaches, your mentors, your groups, everyone that works with you helps lift you up. And that's what is so great about the Mastermind Alliance and the principle that it talks about. And so the more I thought about that, I thought about, I've got the perfect person to come and visit with us on the subject. And so I'd like to welcome Tammy Frederick, Richie, who is the Associate Vice President of the Mastermind programs at Avoya Travel. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Avoya Travel. It is one of the largest retail travel organizations, not just in North America, but in the world. And they believe so much in this program and what masterminds can do that they've dedicated a whole department with 10 people to do nothing but coach and work with their independent agents on how to improve themselves, how to get better, and working together to make that happen. So I want to say thank you for coming, and thank you, Tammy, for joining us. I've known Tammy for, I met Tammy back in 2007. Tammy was the first franchise owner of an Expedia Cruise Ship Centers franchise. And one of the things that attracted her to that was from her background in network marketing, which I'm going to I'm going to let her talk to you a little bit about that as we go. So Tammy, why don't you tell us about yourself and how you got into where you are today?
Oh my gosh, Dan, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. It is my extreme pleasure and honor to come talk to everybody about the Mastermind program, which is something I'm very passionate about. As you mentioned, we've developed the program with Avoya Travel. Gosh, it started about 7, almost 8 years ago. But yes, we do go back to our Expedia Cruise Ship Center days and home-based franchises back at that point in time. If you kind of trace way back, my background, I'm a nurse by trade. Who would have thought I would ever be doing this for a living? But I guess once born a nurse, always a nurse, and you want to help people out. But through the time, you mentioned network marketing. I'm a big believer in the industry of network marketing. And why is that? Because it is all about networking, which is what we do every day of our lives. And that's leading into Mastermind. That's really all Mastermind is about networking with other people of like minds, like goals, like challenges, and coming up with solutions. So as we've started this program, we've seen phenomenal things happen within our organization and our independent agencies. I'll just kind of brag a little bit. Those participating in the Mastermind program, Dan, enjoy a close rate percentage 37% higher than those not participating in the Mastermind program.
Huge.
Yeah, it is huge. Absolutely. And over 80% of our $1 million agencies have come from the Mastermind program.
Wow.
And the great thing is they still participate in the Mastermind program. So it's not like, one and done. I got what I needed. Now I'm out.
Yeah.
It's a continual learning. And I'm a firm believer in this industry, especially if you quit learning, please get out, because you become a danger to yourself, your clients, your company, your brand. Everything that is you, you become a danger to, because our industry changes so quickly, but so do we as people, and so do the challenges. Like we're facing the hurricane right now. All right, I lived through it last year. I know what they're going through now, but that's impacting everybody's travel. So those who are new to our industry need to learn from those who have been through it as to, what do I do? How do I handle my clients? What's going on? And it's not just hurricanes. It's things all across the world these days. So that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I love what I do.
That's fantastic. There's one thing that I've been doing this a while, and one thing I learned was that there's a thing called the educational pyramid. And it's not your traditional pyramid that looks like this. It's an inverted pyramid. So it's more like a vessel, more like a bowl. And you start out small, learning and learning and learning, and you're constantly filling that with knowledge. And it never runs over because it keeps growing. And that's how you grow within the business and stay on top of it, or one step ahead of the internet. So the way we thought we would do this today is I have a list of questions that I came up with. Some of them were submitted beforehand. Some of them are my own. There's going to be questions coming from you within as well that we're going to try to address. So we're just going to have a conversation. And I want you to take notes, learn. I'm going to ask Tammy some questions. I may come back with some follow-ups and things like that. But we have this tremendous opportunity to draw on her experience running masterminds and networking that it's just too good of an opportunity to pass up and just have her come in and just do a presentation and one and done and be done with that. So the first question that we have, and why is this not going? There we go.
There you go.
First of all, let's be clear. As I said, we've been, you hear the word mastermind thrown around left and right. There's mastermind this, there's mastermind that. So, really and truly, what is a mastermind? How is it different from coaching? And, how does mentoring differ from coaching? Because they all kind of fall under the same bucket, but they're very distinct, different disciplines that we have in there.
Absolutely, you're right. They all do fall under the same big umbrella, if you will. Mastermind, coaching, and mentoring. Okay, so let's talk about mastermind first. Mastermind is really when like the thing you read from Think and Grow Rich, it's when people come together. So you think of it much like a think tank. People come together of like minds. They want to discuss what's working. They want to discuss challenges, how to grow their business, how to handle some challenges. But again, it's peer on peer, peer helping peer type of a scenario. So it can be people within your own industry. It can be just a group of people who are a mixed industry. So successful businesses from different venues or different genres can all come together. And again, they're tackling things from, what's going on in society today to what's going on to their specific field and offering suggestions how to grow their business. So it is very much a think tank. Typically, it's at least a group of two because you got to have two people to banter back and forth to. And it can be, our mastermind groups can be as big as 25, 26-ish. But what you want in a mastermind group is to make sure that you've got people who are committed to attending and committed to sharing, because the group lives and dies by the participation of its members. If nobody's showing up, nobody's sharing, it's just, you get on a group call and you hear crickets, nobody's learning. And it suddenly does not have any value, and why should I invest my time to come to something where I am not learning? However, the trick to a mastermind, it's not just a place where you come to take, you have to come to share. And that's when the value of the mastermind goes way up, is when people are sharing situations instead of just coming there to learn how are you doing it.
And it's not just positive situations. It's not just your successes, it's sharing your failures as well, and what everyone, you can learn and what everyone else can learn from those failures.
Absolutely. And you suddenly realize you're not alone. You're not the only person that had a world cruise cancel, things along that lines. So yeah, now in our mastermind program, we do have one stipulation. You can bring a challenge all day long, and we welcome challenges. What we don't allow is negativity, because negativity is like a cancer and it can breed. So there's a big difference between a challenge and a negativity. Yeah. Now, coaching, I'm a huge fan and believer of coaching. This is again, like I tell all of our sales development coaches, there's a difference between a coach and a cheerleader. A cheerleader is one that's, hey, Dan, you're doing great. Come on, you can do it. A coach is somebody who's going to speak the honest truth. And sometimes that truth is not exactly what you want to hear. As Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad says, amateurs don't have coaches, but professionals do. Think of all of the sports, our pro tennis players, golfers, football players, whatever the case is, they all have coaches, because a coach is often that outside person seeing in, who can see things that maybe you don't see right in front of your face. My husband and I always laugh because he'll stand in front of the pantry looking for the peanut butter. And he'll just stand there. I said, what are you looking for? He's like, the peanut butter. I said, oh, this? And I pick it right up and give it to him. That's what a coach can often do, is see things that's going on in your world, because you're in it right now. So you aren't as open to seeing things, that a coach can come in and say, okay, have you thought about saying it this way? Or have you thought about doing this? I see you're doing this. And a coach can often hold you accountable, because remember, a coach is hired. So by hiring you as a coach, Dan, I'm giving you permission to say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I see. And I want to coach because I want to get better. Again, no matter what I do. Again, opera, they have voice coaches. It doesn't ever end. So a coach, again, is not something that is necessarily a one and done. You grow throughout your coaching, and you're going to need different things out of a coach. But I'm a huge fan of coaching. And if you don't have a coach, I highly encourage you to please consider a coach.
And what about mentoring?
Mentoring is great, and we have a mentoring program within our mastermind program. But mentoring is often somebody who is doing the exact same thing you're doing. And it's kind of like a big brother, big sister is kind of what I equate it to.
They I like that.
They typically have their own business going on. They're there to answer a question here and or there, or offer a tip. We have vendor mentors. So somebody who's trying to become better with a certain vendor, I will pair them up with somebody who's already very proficient and specializes in that vendor. But you typically will get, not as dedicated support because they can't. They have their own business running and they've got to protect their business. But hey, I can lift you up from time to time, or I can offer a tip. So again, 3 different venues or genres under one umbrella. All 3 of them are great. And at some point in time, maybe you need more of a mentor than you do a mastermind, or more of a coach than a mastermind. But I think all 3 of them play equally as well. And if you can only have one, do a coach. If you can have 2, coach and mastermind. 3, then add to the mentorship. And that's just my personal opinion.
Okay, great. So they're all under the same bucket, but have different purposes.
Right.
Right. So we're sharing within a peer. And the mastermind coaching is accountability and straight on, no BS, or should be no BS. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you do it, and take it from there. And then mentoring is a big brother. I like that analogy. I've never really heard that, but it does make sense, because I had mentors when I had my agency years ago, and they were peers of mine. They were doing a little bit better than I was, or so I thought at least. And we shared ideas back and forth and things that worked. And so maybe it was more like a mini mastermind that we had there as well. I did the same thing, and you guys can do this as well with your supplier reps. Because they cover large territories and they talk to a lot of different people, ask them what's working for them. What's working in certain areas. They're not necessarily going to share trade secrets of the specifics of what that agent or agency is doing, but ask them to share some things that is going on in their territory that have been successful selling their product that you may be able to implement. And I used to do that a lot, and I learned a tremendous amount, because your supplier reps, particularly your local BDMs, they talk to the brick and mortars, they talk to the host agencies, they talk to the the individual agent at home who's totally independent that's selling their product. They get it from a lot of different perspectives, and so you can learn a lot about how to sell their product and what works selling their product by just talking to them.
Absolutely. There's coaches and mentors everywhere. And I just noticed what Esty was saying about Mastermind. There's a synergy that happens when everyone's brainstorming. And I love that, because that's exactly what takes place. And so again, all 3 of them have a different purpose. All 3 of them have different benefits. And you can get something different depending on where your business is and what point as to what you might need the most.
Yeah. I currently participate in a mastermind group that's outside of the industry. And, to be honest with you, I'm probably going to leave it just because I'm not getting the level, the peers that I'm working with are at a different level in their business than I am. And when I say different, they're not up to the same level where I am. So I'm not really getting much out. I'm giving a lot, but I'm not getting much out. So I hear what you're saying about it. It's a give and take. You have to participate and be willing to share, and everyone needs to share in the program. So that's great. Okay, let's move on to the next question here. So we talked about at Avoya, you believe so strongly in masterminds that they created full-time VP level positions. If you can talk a little bit about, how do the masterminds contribute to the success of your top performers? You rattled off some figures, which are phenomenal. And in addition to that, I know that there are a number of IAs that outside of the Avoya program that employ coaches because I work with some of them. But how do you see this differently, and how does it affect their business? And obviously based on the numbers you shared, wow, I mean, they're performing a lot better. But talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Sure. I have one of my favorite sayings in business is if you treat your business casually, it'll become a casualty. So first of all, it's all about mindset. And starting with the Mastermind program are independent agencies who choose to participate because it's not something we force everybody to do. They're independent. We can't. It's just an optional program. And when they choose to participate in it, they're making a commitment not only to us, but to themselves and to their business. So I find that those agencies that participate are taking things much more seriously. They're treating it more like a business. Mm-hmm. And if you want business income outcomes, then you've got to treat this like a business. Unfortunately, there are times that I hear somebody say, well, I can work this 10 hours a week, but I want to be making $60,000 a year. Please, if you find that position, let me know, because I would really like to work 10 hours a week and make $60,000 a year too.
Me too.
So, that's kind of a hard thing to find. But what we help them do in the Mastermind program is look at their business from an overall state. So we're helping them to identify business systems, and helping them to create those systems. We talk about communication and how to communicate, best ways to communicate. We talk about the persuasive personality, and that's personality sales for the travel industry, how to identify your client and what type of buying style, what are their fears. So again, it's contributing to their overall success by looking at business in a different way, looking at business as a business. Unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, sometimes get into this industry as a hobby because it's fun. We want the benefits. Yeah. That's why I did. I wanted to support my habit of travel. And then I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, okay, this can be huge. And that's why at the point in time, I decided to affiliate myself with Expedia Cruise Ship Centers, because I knew I couldn't compete against, the big guys, and I was just an independent person. So I needed that support behind me. And that was just the entree into what became a very, very large opportunity within the travel industry. But those who are in Mastermind, again, think on a business level. And that's why I think they really reach out to a coach, because a coach is going to offer a different perspective. Okay, so in Avoya, we have our business model. So we work within that business model. But then there are people who say, okay, what about this business model? Just like you were saying about your BDM, hey, what is working? How is this product selling in this part of the world, or whatever the case is? And a coach can actually bring another element, a larger element, to your already existing world by, as we've said earlier, helping you see things that perhaps were right in front of you that you didn't see, opportunities that were outside of that. Again, Avoya, we work mostly, in a leads-based business. So somebody who's wanting to expand their personal network, they might find more benefit from an outside coach in addition to their Mastermind program. So, I think it's a great blend, and those who are taking advantage of working with you as a coach or anybody else, I think they've got the bigger picture in mind. And
there are, this isn't an advertisement for my services. There are a lot of coaches that are out there, and just depending on what your needs are and the fit, that's who you need to look at if you're considering coaching going forward. Because I'm not for everybody. My buddy Mike Marchep is great, but he's not for everybody. Stuart's not for everybody. We all have our own niches, and if it fits yours, then if it can be an advantage for you, then go for it. If not, find one that works for you. And it can even be somebody outside of the industry. But I agree with you with coaching. I've always been and that's one of the reasons why I am a coach, is because I've used coaches for my entire career, and depending on where I am in it. So let's jump to the next question here. So, and this is a big one. I think this is really a big one, and it kind of hits on a little bit from where you were before. Because you do work with the independent agencies, most of them are home-based. Most of our listeners are home-based here. It's hard to get out and network. I think, we all think that we have to put on Facebook ads, and we got to do this and we got to do that. The reality of it is you're sitting on acres of diamonds right underneath you. So to be able to take advantage of that. Now, how do you do that? Well, it comes to networking. And a lot of folks find it challenging, though. Where do you go? What do you join? How do you do it? So what are some of the things in your experience, particularly as a network marketer, that's what you do. What are some of the things that, you can do to increase the size of your network, but more importantly, the quality of the people who are in it?
Well, first of all, let's look at what a network really is. And it's just people you know and the people that they know. And it's a business of just talking to people. And I think sometimes we try to complicate it by trying to say, oh, what's the professional way to do this? Or how do I, and we start thinking really big when, like you said, you've got acres of diamonds right under you. So expanding, how can I say, you can't just hang a shingle up, Tammy's Travel Services, and expect people to flock to you. Now, if I have a large enough network of people, maybe so I can get some people coming through, but you've got to get out there. So be it on social media, and just talking to people, getting to know people, joining groups that have like-minded people again. And I'm not saying mastermind groups, but go on Facebook and find people, travel groups, or find people that, want to visit Asia or whatever the case is, and just start communicating. And then as you have a business Facebook page, I hope everybody does, and you start being seen as the expert in a certain area or on a certain genre of travel, people will start trying to find you. But, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have chat. I can't ever say it, Snapchat. My son laughs at me all the time. LinkedIn, Twitter. There's so many different ways if you physically, for some reason, can't get out. But just when you go out to the grocery store, wear a billboard. Please be a billboard. You need to be a billboard for your business. So have your name, something, XYZ Travel or whatever the case is. At CLIA the past couple of years, 360, I've done a talk on having sales DNA. And I was really honored when Vicki Freed took one of my portions from my talk and used it as her daily tidbit. But you've got to have a confident sales DNA. You've got to believe in what you do. You've got to believe in your industry. You've got to believe in your product. You've got to believe in you. And if you don't, if you're sitting at home thinking, oh, I can't talk to anybody, I just don't know, the cure to that is take action. It's not ever going to change if you just continue to sit there saying, I don't know anyone. So go out, get the gift of gab. I truly do not have the gift of gab, believe it or not, but I will force myself to start talking to somebody. And if it's just a, hi, type of a thing, or the elevator speech when somebody says, what do you do? Oh, I'm a travel agent. That almost sounds like you're apologizing, or you're there to give counseling as to their vacation, and they'll come get all the information from you, then they'll go book it someplace else. So change what you say. I sell the most amazing vacations in the world. When was the last one you took? Or something along that lines that will, again, open up. There's networking things out there like BNI and Chamber of Commerce.
I was going to ask about BNI. What are your thoughts on BNI?
I was part of BNI when I was back with my Expedia Cruise Ship Center franchise. I personally did not find any benefit to it. Because again, most people think that they can go out and do what we do, but only better until something happens. But I found BNI was very beneficial for those who were like in the home industry, realtors and landscapers and that kind of a thing. I've known others who have benefited from BNI, but you've got to start weighing into to affect what's it costing you to attend. And it's not just what is the membership, the time that it takes to get there. That is time away from your business, and your time is money. That's what we're exchanging for money in our business. Again, the membership costs, the time it takes you to drive back home or whatever the case is. Because again, Dan, I think a lot of times it's easy to confuse working on our business with working in our business.
Totally agree.
It's easy to go to a networking event and feel like I'm doing something, but I just kind of sat there quietly and nobody came and talked to me about my business.
Right. And Chamber of Commerce is, and this is just my opinion and my experience on this, are similar. With BNI, you pay to be a member. Mm-hmm. So, you're expecting a quality of networking there. And quite frankly, you got skin in the game, so you should. But Chamber of Commerce, in my experience with that, some people have had some success with it, but it's typically when you join that, it's a lot of other people trying to sell you something. They're not interested in buying from you, but they're trying to sell you something. So I have always found that has been not the best use of resources, financially, time-wise, anything else. There's a lot of high expectations that come with that, but getting into a good networking group locally. I've had people that I've worked with that have had great success with BNI. And I've had others that haven't. In fact, one of the ladies I worked with, she's the president of her chapter. So big believer in that. So the challenge there is to find good, solid local networking groups. As you know, I'm a big proponent of the whole acres of diamonds concept. Is you're sitting on, just through the people you know and the people they know, you're sitting on a gold mine. And it's just a matter of having the courage to reach out and to do that. And I think that's when it comes to networking. Would you say you've said that may be the fear of it? Is that fair to say? Or
the fear of networking? Yeah, I definitely think so, because I think a lot of times we feel that we have to have the perfect thing to say. I've got to know everything. You don't. You just have to engage people and find out what their life is about. Get to know them. It's about relationship. I'm a big believer, especially in travel. It's not about the transaction. That's what a call center does. We call in and we give them our credit card and they book us a stateroom or whatever the case is. But as a travel specialist, our business is about creating relationships. And when you create that relationship, you create trust. And when people, like you said, those beneath you, your acres of diamonds, when they believe in you and they trust you, it's easy. They want to share you with their network of people. But if the only time you're contacting somebody is, hey, Dan, you want a trip? Hey, Dan, you want a trip? Hey, Dan, you want a trip? Suddenly they're going to tune you out. And if that's how I'm feeling from you, am I going to introduce you to my best friend? No, because I don't want them being bombarded by, hey, you ready to book a trip? Yeah. So what's the other old saying? They don't care what you know until they know how much you care. Right. Care about people. And suddenly they're going to start opening their network to you. And
and Esther just made a great comment here. Her best networking happens at her community ladies group. Nobody's selling anything. It's just relationship building, because they know and trust her, that they know that they're in the right demographic. They know that they're going to have if they're ready, then they'll come to you. But when you become part of a networking group where you're not asking them to buy from you, then everything works. Everybody likes to help each other. That's the best thing about it. And that's why networking works and the quality of it.
Get involved in a charity, a local charity. Again, you just start building credibility with people. So then when you do speak, like E.H. Hutton or whatever it is used to say, when they speak, people listen. And people just bond to you. And that's what people want to work with people they like. Yeah. And they like people who are like themselves. So you've got to be one of them and not somebody who's just trying to pitch them on something.
Yeah, and we've talked about the last part of the question here was, how can they use a network to find clients? And I just kind of hit on it. You don't, the people who are close to you aren't going to buy from you for the most part, but the people they know will, because they're more comfortable buying from somebody they don't know. So make it a point to get to that second and third level of people. And that's all done through networking. And in order to get there, you have to ask. You have to be proactive about it. And that's what networking is all about. It's meeting people and asking to be introduced to people down line from there that can help you, or that you can help. Not just say, hey, I need you to buy something from me, because then the desperation comes in. But the important thing to remember also about this is that this takes time. Mm-hmm. You don't build networks overnight. And it's a challenge for some people. So, get out from behind your desk, be proud of what you do, go through they use the analogy of the grocery store line all the time. I learned when I was, when I first started selling, I always wanted to be in the business. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, just as you're walking down the street, just say hi. Just say hi to people. Now, some people may look at you like you grew an android head or something, but most people, and I've been doing this now since I was a teenager, most people will say hi right back. And that's how you start conversations, is just say hi to people, and it works. It's amazing to me, just jumping in there and doing that. So,
what else is fun, Dan, is make a point every time you go out to fill someone's bucket. Yes. Be it the cashier, be it the waitress, be it whatever the case is. And it can be something like, wow, you have such a beautiful smile. Keep smiling. Or, hey, I'm sorry you're having a tough day. It's going to get better. Fill someone's bucket. And you'll suddenly see that talking to people really isn't all that hard, and it's very
Right.
fulfilling inside as well. And you just start beaming, and people are drawn to people who are happy and beaming, and it just catapults from there.
Yeah, and build the relationship. Don't just hand them your card right away and expect something to happen from it. Networking's a give and take, just like the masterminds are. So
Yep.
that's great. So guys, if you've got some questions or anything that you'd like to ask, be sure and pop them in the Q&A or the chat box here. We'll get to them here in a second. We've only got a couple more questions to go through. Let me see how much time we got. How we doing on time? We got about 20 minutes or so left. So let's just kind of go to the next one. All right. So this is something that, I see a lot. So when I'm out speaking or I'm at different conferences around the country or in North America, it's usually the same 5 or 10 people getting up there getting the sales awards. And it's not just that one. It's year after year after year. And when I look at the size of some of these organizations, it basically takes it down. It's the top 5% or less. In some cases, it's the top 1%. Of people who are up there winning the awards. Now, you all know that I'm not all about, gross sales. I'm all about gross revenue. So that's a different topic. But most of the time, they go hand in hand. So what is it they're doing differently in your experience? Because you work with these top performers as part of your mastermind and coaching and everything you do at Avoya. And Avoya's got some really strong independent agencies. What are they doing differently than everybody else is doing? And what can we learn from it?
They're doing what everybody else isn't willing to do.
Uh-huh.
First of all, they're treating it like a business. They get up, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever their business hours are. And they are working it like a business, like it was a job. As I always ask them to ask themselves, first of all, would you hire yourself? Would you keep yourself, or would you fire yourself?
That's correct.
So they've got to look at it there first. So they are treating it like a business as compared to a part-time or a spare time hobby. Big differences there. Their mindset is different. They specialize. They aren't trying to be a little bit of everything to all people, jack of all trades and a master of none. They're truly finding out, what is my niche? Dan, you know your niche. I know my niche.
Yeah.
We're very good at what we do, and so are they. So again, they've really honed their skills to be so good that when people talk to them, the client's like, I've never heard anybody sound like this before. So they're offering value. They're bringing value to their clients. And they go back to networking. They're out there talking. They're not hiding behind their computer, hanging a shingle, wondering why people aren't coming to them. So that they are making the most of their contacts. They're developing those relationships because, in our own industry, they say that 80% of a travel agent's clients never return back to them. And the main reason is because they never hear from them. So these agents that are superstars are really developing that repeat business as well, because it takes like 9 first-time buyers to equal the value of 1 repeat or returning customer.
Oh.
And those are the people who are going to be your mouthpiece, the ones that are going to share with other people because they keep coming back to you. They trust you. They believe in you. You've done a good job for them. You've created that relationship. So the top agents are really masterfully working and developing that repeat business. But again, it goes back to the very first thing that I said. They're doing what the others aren't willing to do. Bottom line.
So they're actually making the outbound phone calls.
Making the outbound phone calls, sending emails, reaching out and asking their clients, hey, who do you know that's getting married this year? Again, when it comes to referrals, it's kind of hard to say, hey, who do you know that travels? Because everybody's mind just goes, oh, there's too many people. But when you narrow it down to a certain event, who do you know that's wanting to, who's taking their kids on a summer vacation this year? Who do you know that's getting married? Who do you know that, is retiring this year? I mean, so many different things that you can kind of narrow that scope down and start asking. But yeah, they are asking, they're out there, they're specializing, they're continuing to educate. But again, and I'll go back to this one, they're being coached. They have their mastermind programs. They're being coached. They're not stopping in their personal development, because as they stop developing personally, everything else kind of starts falling backwards. Business is like a relationship. It's either moving forward or it's moving backwards. Rarely are relationships ever standing still and when they're stagnant. Business is the same way. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. You're never standing still. And if you are standing still, I can promise you, you're very quickly going to start sliding backwards. So these people don't ever stop. Are they enjoying life? Oh, yes. They're on more cruises per year than I can even count. But they are working while they're on vacation. They constantly keep moving. They keep developing. They've developed their business. They develop their skills. They develop personally. So they are the ones that are in Mastermind. They are the ones who have coaches. And they are the ones who are the mentors.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's essentially the same thing that we, and I say we as an industry, not just me, but the CEOs of the suppliers, the cruise lines, the tour companies, and everything else, is we're all saying the same thing. Specialize, work on your business. It's doing the basic fundamental things and doing them well and doing them repeatedly. I mean, basically everything you talked about is in this book, Think and Grow Rich. And that's my fan club right now.
I'm a huge sports fan, Dan, and you know, championships are not won on trick plays. They're won by the team who goes back to the basics and does the fundamentals better than anybody else. But most people don't want to spend time honing the fundamentals, especially if they've been in the business a little bit. They think they know it. No,
I see that a lot.
You know, Drew Brees just broke the all-time passing record. I dare say he's out there day in, day out, rain, sunshine, snow, whatever the case is, throwing passes to make sure his skills are getting better and better. And he's got a coach who's sitting there and watching and saying, oh man, hey, you're slipping here, whatever the case is. You can't stop.
Yeah, particularly as you get older in the sports, you got to do that much better.
Right.
And if you've ever read my book, I'm a huge believer in the fundamentals. I'm all about that as we go through. So I love that. I mean, it's what it is. It's just saying, hey, you know what? That top 5%, that top 1%, they're doing the basics, but they're doing them very well. They're not looking for the trick play. They're not looking for the get rid. It's a systematic process that they're using to get there. And they are patient. They're willing to dedicate the time to do it. Because once they get there, and I agree with you, you know, I see them on the cruises. It's the same people. They're traveling quite a bit, but they're still extremely successful, even though it's just them, or maybe they may have a small team backing them up. It allows them to because with the internet and the laptop and smartphone, you can work from anywhere. And so that's what they do. They continue to grow their business when they're on let's call it a vacation cruise. It's still a learning cruise. They're meeting the hotel director, developing relationships on board so that they can refer back to those when they have a client. Hey, I'm going on the Azamara Quest in a couple of weeks. Oh, hey, I know the hotel director there. Be sure and tell him I said hello, and just give him this note for me, kind of thing. That's the kind of relationships that you want to build. That's what networking does too. So you never stop networking, and that's really and truly how the top 5% get there.
Well, you said a word. You said a word there for a minute. It's system. And to me, it's all about systems as well, from the time how you set your day up to how you handle a repeat customer. If you think of Krispy Kreme donuts, you watch their factory. They've got a system of exactly how the dough is made and the ingredients, and it goes here and it goes here and it goes here. Can you imagine what a Krispy Kreme donut would look like if it didn't have a system and it just plops something into the grease and then just plops some icing on it?
Yeah.
Everything that is successful, every business that is successful has a system. And like we always share, there's 7 different systems that you should be looking at for your business. So again, get with somebody who can help you see some of this if you haven't started looking at it.
Okay, so we got some questions rolling in. So earlier this week, there was a column. I subscribe to a lot of newsletters. And one of the columnists wrote about, how much, and these are her words, how much she hates lead programs, and that they are today's equivalent to the travel industry sweatshop. And again, these are her words. Avoya is the leader unequivocally in the leads programs, and I want to give you an opportunity to address this. as are many other prominent organizations out there. Travel Leaders uses them, Nexion uses them, Virtuoso, some of those with varying commission splits, as well as lesser known brands. What are your thoughts on that? On, you know, doing it all yourself versus having leads. And folks, this is a general statement here, but because I thought because Tammy's here and she's with Avoya, who is obviously the #1 leader in that area, that you know, it'd be a good thing to address and just kind of get the different perspective on that.
Absolutely. You know, and everybody looks at business in a different way. And I know the person you're speaking of, and I respect her words and her feelings. I actually sat in on one of her workshops. And the one thing that was not mentioned as was talking about how to increase commissions was the cost of creating business, the cost of creating leads. And I don't care what business you're in, be it a restaurant and you're having to do advertising, to travel, or to a clothing store, whatever the case is, you've got to generate clients. Now, when I affiliated with Expedia Cruise Ship Centers, it's because I couldn't compete against them. I couldn't compete against the Orbits and so on and so forth. And when I actually affiliated with Avoya, my reason was I wanted leads. I didn't have a huge network of people, nor did I have the money that it's going to take to run Google ads to compete against those who are spending $1 million a month in advertising. So where was I to get business? And so that's why I sought out a company who was #1 in generating leads. And, you know, we go back to those agencies that are tops in our network. And you talk to any one of them, and we've got probably 120 so of those who are already doing over $1 million, and it's all coming from leads. So for someone to say that it's the industry's equivalent to a sweatshop, I would have to challenge anybody. How else are you going to come up with clients? What are you going to do to be in the trenches? What is it going to cost you, not only, as I said, for an ad or for a networking event? You know, you go do a bridal show and they're $800. And yeah, you get names, but then what type of a scenario? So you've got to look at what your business needs are. If you are somebody who's fortunate and you've got a huge network of people, yes, a program that offers leads probably isn't something that you need. If you don't have that kind of a network, I didn't, or you're new to the industry, and the biggest thing that's stumbling block, as we just been talking about networking and one thing and another, is who am I going to sell to? Who am I going to talk to? Then perhaps a company like the ones you've mentioned, I won't even say Avoya, but the ones that you've mentioned could be a great avenue to help even balance. We have a lot of people within our program.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is I think you need to strike a balance there of, you know, your own business versus where you're getting leads, because one, they pay differently, but two, you know, when you can turn one off at any time while you're developing the other part of it. And
absolutely.
There's a lot to that. And now from the supplier standpoint, because we participated in lead programs with multiple consortia, I can tell you our sales went up like a hockey stick once we started participating in those programs, because the travel advisor knows what they're talking about, and they can sell it better than what our reservations people could. And that's true not just with the company I was with, but with a lot of them that are out there. So, and you specialize in things. So yeah, striking that balance. Also, if you're fairly new to the business, I think it's great practice, you know, to be able to hone your sales talk and your spiel. I call it spiel, but your whole sales process by multiple leads. The more practice you get, the better you're going to get at it and the way you go. So, you know, I thank you for that. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to, you know, to respond to that, because I didn't think it was a fair statement. Everybody, there's a niche for everyone out there. And if it may be that it's a leads program, maybe it's not, maybe it's a combination of the two, but you know, there's some good programs that are out there that are feeding it in there. Okay, real quick, I want to jump into a couple of things here real quick. Our next Power Hour is scheduled now for November the 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon, what is that, noon Eastern time? And I want to add something here. I told you I was going to make an announcement. So for those of you who are part of the VIP Players Club membership group that we have, we are going to be introducing the VIP Masterminds groups. So I've learned a lot from Tammy and heard what you had to say. And so we're going to start developing those within the current membership. And if you're not a member and you want to participate, just join for $100 a month. You get a lot extra there. There's the SA6 Business Acceleration Framework. The course that I was selling for $2,000 is in there. Sales and marketing templates, mini courses, everything else. It's all in there. It's included for the club members. And you will get the Mastermind Group program as well. You have to apply for the Mastermind Group so that I can pair you up with people that are going to be a benefit to you. As Tammy was saying, make sure you're with your peers that you can learn from, but you also got to be able to contribute there as well. So for just join for $100 a month and you get everything plus the Mastermind Groups is there. If you're already a member, you don't have to worry about it. Also, we talked about coaching a little bit. My rate is I'm raising my rates because I've got a great demand there. We'll go up to almost $600 November 1st. So if you are looking at coaching and you're interested in coaching, get signed up. If you want to go with me, get signed up before the end of the month to lock yourself in at the $469 rate there. Okay, so to be able to do that, just go to my website, danchappelle.com. Click on personal development. You'll take you to that screen for the coaching. If you click on Players Club, that'll take you to the Players Club area that you can join and learn more about what you get with that as well. And with that, I want to just open it up for Q&A. So I've got a lot of questions here. There's one that LaDonna had to jump off early, and we'll talk about this later because this is kind of off topic here. Let's see. Okay, here's one that can kind of go together. This is actually to both of us, but I'm going to let you go first. How do I find the best coaching relationship?
Wow, that's a great question, because a coach has got to be somebody that you can connect with. So I would start looking at those who are in your field or in your industry, or specialize in the area that you are feeling that you need the most help in, and interview them. Because it's got to be somebody that I can talk to, I can trust, that has credibility with me, that I can share openly. Because if I'm going to have a coach, I can't just share little bits and pieces about it, because then it's not fair to the coach, because they can't help me. And Dan, I love something that you and I talked about the other day, is, there's some coaches that try to lock you in for, 2 years or a year, whatever the case is. And I'll use your exact words, if you can't get out of me what you need in 6 months, what am I going to do for a year? So you've got to see what their business practices are too, and their beliefs of what they are going to be able to do for you. So that's kind of my answer. Dan?
Yeah, it's an interview process first. You've got to connect. From my perspective as a coach, you've got to be willing to do the things that I suggest that you do. Because I actually act more as a business advisor than a coach, because I'm not more about the rah-rah part. I'm more about, this is what you need to do. And so the people that I work with, I probably turn away as many, and the same amount decide not to work with me because they're not willing to do those things. So, but there are coaches that will fit each mold. There was a question about, do you need a different coach for sales? Do you need a different coach for marketing and business? Not necessarily. One thing that I would suggest is, in this industry, a lot of people get into coaching but have never really done what you do. Make sure you find someone that has some experience and have been successful selling travel to begin with. That's kind of a key, because then, they've walked in your shoes, they know what you're expecting, but they've also done the different things, the sales, the marketing, and the other components of that. So do you need a separate coach? Not necessarily, but you could, if you're not having success with your marketing, find someone who's a specialist. My specialty is sales. So I really focus on that, because that's how you make money. That's you don't get paid to market, you get paid to sell. So that's really where I step in. But back to your point, interviewing the coach is essential, because you've got to connect. You've got to be on the same page. You got to be, buying into what they have to offer, and be willing to do it more than anything else. Be willing to take action on what the coach is suggesting that you do, because if you don't, nobody benefits. You're just wasting your money, and everybody's wasting their time in there.
Absolutely, Dan. I'll say one thing there. Be honest with yourself, first of all. Are you looking for a coach or are you looking for a cheerleader? Are you looking
That's a
for
good point.
somebody to say, hey, you're doing great and just keep doing what you're doing? Or are you looking for somebody to be very honest with you and say, let's wipe the slate clean and start over, or pick up on what you need to talk about? So be honest with yourself first. Do you want a cheerleader or do you want a coach?
Okay, next question. As a coach or a mentor, how would you help someone summarize your added value as their travel advisor?
Oh, wow. I do a whole course in that. So, and it takes us about 3.5 hours to go through this and to really find out what your added value is. Um, there's nothing I can say to tell you what your added value is. You've got to sit down and start asking yourself, what makes you special? And as I tell people that I coach all the time, it's not that I've been in travel 32 years, and it's not that I'm available 24 hours a day or that I'm your advocate. Everybody says that.
Yeah.
What is your something special that you bring to the table? And when you can start working through that, and it's not something that's going to happen, just by me sitting here saying it and I can type it out. You got to do some soul searching. Ask those around you, why would you come to me? What is something that I deliver? And then start writing words down and you'll start putting it together. But again, I do a whole exercise on that, and it's about 3.5 hours long, so I can't give you a short answer. Dan,
Yeah.
maybe you've got a short answer.
Mark, he's already part of the VIP Players Club. In the first module of the SA6 framework, there's actually you go through what's your specialty. It helps you pick out what you're good at. But it's an internal thing. Now, once you figure out what that is, then you boil it down. And that's where we boil it down into on a bumper sticker, and you say what it is. Like, for instance, mine. I help grow business leaders in travel and tourism business. Period. Simple as that. Okay. Sales-focused leaders. That's where we work on. So you boil that down, but you find the right words. You find the specialty. Finding your specialty, what's going to set you apart from everybody else, is key. Because the barrier of entry to get into the travel business is low. So everybody and their mother gets into it because they like to travel or they like to help people or whatever. But, just maintaining an online presence isn't going to be where you're going to get your most success. It's building the relationships locally. See, that's what I think an area that people overlook right now is we're so worried about Facebook and social media and all that other crap that's out there. And there is a place for that in your business, but it's a tool. Your main business, particularly as an individual, is going to come from around you and your circle of influence and immediate network and the people that live in your neighborhood, that live in your city, that shop in the places that you go to. That's really where people are, I think, in this day and age, are missing out. They're not cultivating their local relationships and establishing their credibility at a local level before trying to go out. Because when you're at a local level, you're only competing with this many people. When you put yourself out on social media, then it's like this. And then you got to build groups. I mean, you've got to establish yourself. And Lena's on here, and she's done a great job of establishing a group for travel professionals to come in. And you know what? She'll be the first to tell you, it grew out of control and takes a lot to maintain. So if you're going to build out your social media presence, do it the way you should do it and be prepared to maintain it on a regular basis. And that's, I think I kind of got off topic there, but if you want to boil, at the end of the day, you want to be able to boil down what you do on a bumper sticker. And that takes a lot. There's a lot of work that goes into it first before you get to that point.
Absolutely. Go find some adjectives, some nouns, whatever the case is. I mean, I love what yours said, Dan. Mine is I'm a performance maximizer. That's what I do. So, and that's the uniqueness that I bring. So you've got to find out what is you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, let's see. Would you say building a network relationship is the same system, to coin my wording, as establishing partnerships with another business for establishing groups? Would you building a network relation, same system? Yeah, I think so. I mean, networking, when you're networking with other business owners to find opportunities that you can work together, yeah, I would say that. That's true. You may have a relative that knows a restaurant owner that specializes in Austrian food. Well, boom, there you go. Get the introduction there. Now you've met that business owner. Now you can build a group around that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. What platforms or medium do you find the top level agents? What platforms or medium do you use to find the top travel agents and gross sales? So I'm thinking mediums is advertising, platforms, maybe social. So I think Facebook's obviously the big one there. Instagram is, there's a lot of traction I'm hearing coming from Instagram. Top level agents that I work with actually build it from their own networks, typically, and ask for the referrals from there. And that's where I see it. At least the higher value ones, you may get the Carnival Cruises or the Globus Tours, stuff like that. But when you're looking for the higher transactions, then it's coming from somebody, who trusts you, referring you to someone else who trusts them. So it's kind of that, it's a very, very warm opening, which allows for the relationship, to build and the sale to close at a higher cost right there. I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Some of these are specific to Avoya that I'm going to forward them to Tammy and let her address them directly. Wendy says, I got such a tremendous amount out of this webinar. Thanks, Dan and Tammy.
Awesome.
Is a group specialty too broad of a niche? I think we'll both say yes. Yes, 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 yes. You whether it's just like saying you specialize in luxury travel. Well, what's that mean? Because there's lots of components of that. When I first got in the business, you could specialize in cruise. You can't do that anymore because there's so many little niches in between there. Let's see. Let me go down. Okay, we're at the bottom there. Okay, so we're out of time right now. We're at 10:03. If Tammy, if you've got a couple minutes, you can stick around. I'm gonna, let's see, I think we may have one or two more. Do you find the top 5% leverage from a team as well? I can answer that question for you. Yes and no. Do they leverage from a team? Well, as they've grown, they've built a team to support them. So yes, they do leverage that, but that's not what got them there in the first place. It's usually, they start off, they get moving along. As the business grows, they add an admin, to take care of stuff that keeps them focused on the important things. Your job is to produce revenue, okay? Not to go in there and fix flights and dining assignments and make sure the ticks. That's what an admin should do. So you can offload some of those tasks that keep you from selling. So yes, they do leverage a team, but typically they don't get to that top 5% using a team. They use a team to stay there. It's been my experience. Will this information be made available to us? Absolutely. It's being recorded. One last question, I think, and then we'll wrap it up here real quick. In a conversation advisor to a potential new client who is apprehensive about using okay, I'm not sure if that question got finished, but I'm going to take it as, how do you talk to somebody who's apprehensive in using a travel agent? Tammy, you want to take a shot at it first?
Sure. First thing I want to find out before I start pitching the reason why they should use a travel agent, I want to find out why. Why are they apprehensive about using?
Back to your first thing is, what do you have to offer?
Yeah, so it's a cycle, guys. You've got to answer some of those basic questions. But some things happen for them to be apprehensive in using a travel agent, a travel specialist. I also like to always ask, how did you book your last vacation? Because that tells me their mindset. And if they say, oh, I booked it directly with, XYZ vendor or whatever the case is, I'll start a conversation and say, do you realize that you paid for my services, that you just didn't benefit from them? And start that conversation. You can't jump right into somebody saying, well, I don't use a travel agent or I don't see the need of it, and just start getting defensive and, well, this is why, and this is why, and this is why, because they've tuned you out anyway. You've got to develop that relationship and find out why. What happened? Is there a reason? And then you can address their reasons or their concerns. Otherwise, you're just pitching to close ears.
Perfect. Well, that's a great answer, so I'm not even going to add to that. But I would like to just wrap things up real quick. So remember, if you're interested in joining the mastermind groups that we're going to be hosting, you'll need to join the VIP club. Just go to the website, danchappelle.com, click on VIP Players Club and Power Players Club, and you will learn more about what we do in there, as well as be adding the mastermind groups as well. Tammy, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, I've got a page of notes here as well. So I hope everyone took the time to write, take notes, because it was a tremendous learning experience. What it boils down to is a mastermind group is a group of your peers. It's usually moderated by someone else, which is why we're offering this through as an added value through the membership organization, through the VIP Club, Power Players Club. Mentoring is usually somebody, one of your peers, that's just kind of like a big brother type of relationship. And a coach is someone who tells you like it is and keeps you pointing on the right track and holds you accountable and tells you things that you might not want to hear. So that's where we were with all of this. So I hope everybody got as much out of this as I did. Tammy, thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
For those of you who asked Avoya specific questions, I'm going to forward those to Tammy and let her respond to those directly to you. And with that, I look forward to seeing you or being with you next month on November 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon West or East Coast time for the November Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving edition of the VIP Power Players Club Wealthy Travel Agent Power Hour. So thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day, and the recording will be posted probably by tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.